I want to welcome in Pedro and Rowan, some fantastic Fox Sports MLB writers for us. Pedro, Rowan, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Just coming off the All-Star game, by the way, before we get into the NL West and Padres and Dodgers talk, what is one thing to you? We'll start with Rowan. What's something that stuck out to you with your experience here in LA for the All-Star?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people were surprised that Clayton Kershaw hadn't started an All-Star game. I think your brother even was shocked when he heard this is the first one. And I think he knew what that meant to him too. And Clayton talked about what it meant. And really in the last few years, he's talked about kind of his kids growing up and how that's kind of given him this new perspective, made him enjoy all these moments a little bit more. And this one meant something to him. Now, if this game was played somewhere else, would it have? Maybe not. But getting that first start for him, it's clearly meant a lot to him. He performed well. It was fun. You got to see him, pick off Shohei Ohtani. He seemed to have fun with it. And just to see kind of what it's meant to him, I think he's, again, appreciating these moments a little bit more. And it's an exhibition game. He mentioned, Sandy Alcantara. Could he have been the starter? Absolutely. A lot of other options possibly, but I think it definitely meant something to him. And for an exhibition game, why not?
That first pitch, the setup for that, I mean, it was incredible. Sure. Kershaw said, I'm going to throw it as hard as I can. It's going to be 91. Shohei said, first pitch, I'm swinging. Let's do it.
And
that was cool. Yeah. And he did. It was a really cool moment. Pedro?
Yeah, it was 90.9 miles an hour. He did almost exactly as he said he would. I liked that. Yeah. My favorite moment was before the game. It just so happened to be Rachel Robinson's 100th birthday, which the odds of that for the first All-Star game the Dodgers have hosted in 42 years is wild to me.
42 years.
Yeah, it's really wild. And so for Mookie Betts to take the mic and lead the crowd and a happy birthday wish to her, I thought was a really cool moment and something that will stick out for me from the week.
So let's start with the Dodgers. And am I wrong in saying it feels like the Dodgers have underperformed their ability in the first half?
No. I mean, they could. This team has enough talent assembled. They could win 120 games, and it wouldn't necessarily like that. I could think of more shocking things that could happen. But no, probably not overall. They've underperformed. I mean, 90 games, 60 wins.
It's incredible.
The way they finished off the last 2 weeks of the first half, I think, takes away the underperformance that you saw in parts of May and June. So no, I mean, they're on pace to surpass 100 wins with a couple weeks to spare. So I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I think a couple months in, even you're thinking, okay, what's wrong with this offense? They have all these sluggers. What's going on? They were still kind of ranking pretty much right there in the top 5 in the National League for a while there, and then all of a sudden everyone starts getting hot. Obviously, Trey Turner's been good all year. Mookie Betts had just an unbelievable month after a little bit of a slow start, and Freddie Freeman's gotten going. Will Smith, not an all-star. A lot of his teammates thought he should have been. So the offense has kind of picked up, and the pitching staff still just somehow is at the top of the league, despite Walker Buehler probably not back till earliest September. Tony Gonsolin, the 5th starter, ends up being an all-star. Tyler Anderson, who was piggybacking him, ends up being an all-star. So they just sort of figure out these ways. Anderson's changeup. You have guys in the bullpen. Evan Phillips stepping up. Yency Almonte becoming a guy. Like, they just sort of figure it out every year. And as you mentioned, now you're 60 wins at the break. Hard to say underperforming, I guess. But, yeah.
I think not only did Dodgers teammates think Will Smith should have been an all-star, I think pretty by and large, whether you love or hate the Dodgers, I think it's Will Smith should have been an all-star.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, look, you want to get guys from every team. I get that. Like, if you're an Arizona fan, you want to see an Arizona. Obviously, wasn't an offensive player there, but with Will Smith in particular, you could argue in that last month of the season, he was the best offensive player. I mean, Freddie Freeman was kind of ridiculous at that point, but you get a lot of players there. They definitely wanted him there. I get maybe wanting to kind of spread the field out a little bit, but statistically, I mean, I don't know that you'd want really any other catcher if you could have a guy at the plate right now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And like you said, the slow start offensively, that speaks volumes to this team. If the offense is struggling for what, they can't really struggle that bad, but then their pitching's able to pick it up. It's been incredible how good they've been. But other than the Dodgers and the NL West, there are some good teams out there. So I want to do a segment with you guys called Playoffs or Vacation, where we talk about teams that I think, and you guys think, are going to be in the playoffs or not. And let's start in that NL West, and let's start with the San Diego Padres. Rowan, playoffs or vacation, San Diego Padres?
I will say playoffs, and if they could add a guy, maybe like a Juan Soto, that might make me feel a little more confident. But just looking at that team, offensively, they have not hit the way that maybe they would have wanted to so far, and yet they're still sitting right there in a really nice position just to obviously to make the playoffs. But Manny Machado has been incredible still. You got those guys at the top of the rotation with Musgrove and Darvish, and I just think where they're at right now, I think they're going to be in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's more likely than not they're in too. this is the first time Manny Machado has ever carried a team to playoff contention. He was never the guy in Baltimore when they were good. With Los Angeles, when they went all the way, he was not near their leader. But with Tatis out, they've had to rely on him, and he's delivered. And I think if you can combine the way he's performed over the first 3 months with Tatis at his best once he's back, yeah, I don't see how they're not in.
I have them in as well. They're unbelievable. They are good. And what they've been able to do this year without Tatis so far, but you keep saying without Tatis and then when he comes back, but it's getting to the point where it's like, okay, we keep hearing it's getting delayed and we're not seeing what we want. So that is a bit of a concern, but they're just a really good team. They pitch really well. Joe Musgrove is a star. He's a star in the game of baseball. I like that rotation a lot. Yu Darvish's stuff always is disgusting. So I have them in. Next up for you guys, we'll start with you, Pedro. The St. Louis Cardinals, playoffs or vacation come October?
This is tough, especially because my reasoning for the Padres applies here, and yet I'm going to come up with the opposite conclusion. They have Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt, 2 future Hall of Famers, most likely, who've had the best seasons of their careers so far this year, and yet I'm going to project them to be not in. I'm going to project them to be on vacation, simply because their pitching staff just doesn't have the talent. I mean, these guys have not. Who in there do you really believe in down the stretch for another 12 starts?
Nobody.
With the pressure on, who's healthy at least that can do that, and I'm not sure there's a depth there, and that's where the Padres, have the advantage on them. So no, I say no.
All right.
I'm just going to go to the other side here and say that they will be in. The pitching does concern me as well. I know a couple guys have been, pretty good there, and Helsley's been incredible at the back end. But I just think offensively they have enough to get through. They're playing in a weak division right now. Pretty easy strength of schedule the rest of the way. But you mentioned those 2 guys. I mean, Goldschmidt and Arenado, they're right there at the top of the NL WAR category there. They're playing their best baseball so far. You mentioned Tommy Edman, both offensively and defensively doing a ton right now. If they can get a couple more guys going offensively, I think they might have the offense just to carry them. I know Carlson hasn't exactly had the year that maybe he wanted, but he could get going at some point here soon. They've got some young talent.
Same with
O'Neill as well, yeah. So I just think, it'll be really interesting because you could end up with 3 NL East teams in, and then it could be a really fun sort of finish where they have to win the division to get in. I think they will get in, though.
So you're picking them in. Are you saying division champs, or do you think they get a wild card?
I think probably a wild card.
Okay.
I think Milwaukee probably has the pitching to do it. Another team that has a really nice schedule laid out here on the second half of the season. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's still a race to that last week.
Okay, talked about it a little earlier. I have them out. I think there's going to be one team from that division. I think the Brewers get in. I think that rotation's really good. And unless they do something, unless they add something at the deadline, pitching-wise specifically, it's going to be a struggle for them. So I have them on vacation come October. Next up for you guys, Rowan, we'll start with you. Playoffs or vacation? Philadelphia Phillies.
This is a fun one. I'm going to say vacation just because, as we just heard, I took the Cardinals to get in there. So I will say vacation on this one. I mean, obviously Harper's health is going to play a lot in this. I mean, I think Wheeler is one of the pitchers that we just don't talk about enough. He's really been incredible. Nola, obviously, the pitching is great. They can mash. I thought Schwarber was going to win the home run derby there, but I still just think, with those 2 teams kind of obviously separating themselves above them, I just don't know if they're going to be able to get it done.
Okay.
I got him in basically for the same reasons that he has Roman just enumerated. I mean, it's there's a lot of talent assembled there, and if Harper can contribute in any way, I believe I really do. So it's a matter of Nola and Wheeler atop it, and who is competing with that. Their wild card contenders simply just don't have that sort of pitching.
So this is an interesting one, because if you start breaking it down, there's an extra wild card team this year. The Braves or Mets are going to be one of them.
Sure.
We have the Padres in. So then you start looking around, and it gets really interesting for that last spot. And I am a believer in this Phillies team. I like them. I've been bit by this before. They look good, and then it's like their bullpen scares me to no end. I mean, it's not great. They need a bona fide closer. I think they wanted that to be Corey Knebel, and that's been up and down. But I think they get in. I look around, and I think they get in. So I'm going to say playoffs for them, which presents us with kind of one more on the National League side. And we'll start with you here, Pedro. Playoffs or vacation, San Francisco Giants.
Vacation. I could see them being sellers, in fact. You know, I could see them even deciding here over the next couple weeks to part ways with some of the talent they've assembled. Maybe Carlos Rodon, who they could get a lot for. So I think they're smart enough to see what's happening here in the West and see how much of an uphill battle they'd have to go far in the playoffs and actually just cut their losses and retool for next season. I think it'd be a smart play for them too.
Wow. Okay.
I will also say vacation. You look statistically, they're been better than the Padres in a lot of different ways, but I just think there was a magic to them last year, and you knew it kind of pretty early on that maybe there was something special here. A lot of dudes on career years just really thriving. I just don't really see that the same way this season, and there's different reasons for that, but I don't know. I think you look at the teams that they're competing against here, and I know Flores has had a good year. They have these guys who can kind of match up really well, but it just doesn't have that same feel that it did last year.
I'm with you. The National League wild card becomes interesting because I feel like whoever gets the first two are going to be a good baseball team. Not that the third one isn't, but it gets a little iffier there. Then you start talking about Phillies, Giants, some other teams that could sneak in there. Cardinals are in that conversation. It's not the elite Braves or Padres that we see. So it starts getting interesting. I'm gonna be with you guys. I'm gonna take them out. But
one interesting thing, I was actually just looking at some Fangraphs playoff odds. They had them ahead of the Cardinals as well as the Phillies. So that was surprising to me. But look, I'm not going to question Farhan because he just finds a way to get it done more often than not. But I don't know. I think you look at the landscape of the league, the two teams ahead of them in the NL West, I think it's vacation.
I'm with you. I think last year, like you said, there was a lot of overperforming. Maybe not overperforming, but everyone at the exact same time performing to their absolute best of their ability. And how realistic is that when you're looking at a Brandon Crawford and now a Buster Posey who's gone, no longer there, and then you look all around the field and Kevin Gausman was unbelievable. Rodon's been a good implementation into that spot, but he's been arguably as good there. But everybody was so good at the exact same time, and that's just not realistic. And now I don't think the team itself is as good this year. And I think with the combination of that and this year, the other teams in the league and the division being that good, I'm going to take them on vacation. I'm not going to take them on vacation. I think they would love that on vacation.
Have you thought about that?
I just did in that moment. I'm going to take them on. It sounds like it'd be fun.
Yeah, sure.
There'd be some fun guys on that team to go on vacation with.
Thanks for watching. If you love Flippin Bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.